Good evening. I just want to thank Premier Ford for recognizing that we have a couple of chiefs in the room tonight, so I don't have to call you at 6 a.m. Thank you. I'm thinking of you, Chief Trong and Chief Crowell, Chief MacSween. But I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and all the special guests that are here, that Minister Lecce and Laura Smith and I are lucky beyond words to serve under Premier Ford's government, who set a priority on day one that are public safety matters. He said to me on my first day on the job, he said, I want to tell you one thing that will resonate with you every day that you're on this job, and that is we will always have the backs of everyone that keeps Ontario safe. And to have as the Deputy Solicitor General one of the finest individuals you could ever want to meet, Mario Di Tommaso. Mario, you have led the department on the public safety side with such conviction and such passion. It's absolutely an honor to serve and to have you in the ministry. Friends, you know, when we look at public safety, it seems so obvious to us. Why is it so important, especially today? Especially today. And Premier Ford, about a year ago, said, as we were coming out of the pandemic and we were looking at the priorities of what is important to everyone in Ontario, he said, Michael, public safety is at the top of the list. And when we look back, and I just wanted to speak for a couple of minutes on the achievements that we have done as a government led by Premier Ford. I say this, I said it today in the legislature. We've never had a government, we've never ever had a premier in my generation that has prioritized the importance of public safety as our government led by Premier Ford. And that's why Stephen Lecce and Laura and our caucus from all over Ontario understand that when we have public safety, we have everything. We have an inherent right to live safely in our communities and to wake up our kids and check in on our parents and go to work and to come home at the end of the day. And Imam, we have a place to pray safely, and this is inherently our right. But in the last year, our government has acted, and I want to just give you some of the tidbits, some of the highlights to show you just how serious we have been and how hard at work we are. Just a few weeks ago, at the beginning of April, we proclaimed and enacted a piece of legislation that governs our public safety called the Community Safety and Policing Act. And again, thanks to the Deputy Solicitor General and some amazing people in the ministry, we took a piece of legislation that was last enacted in 1990, almost 35 years ago, and we brought it current to today. And we work collaboratively with the chiefs all over Ontario, with the associations that we work very collaboratively with, the PAO and the OPPA, and with the Toronto Police Association. And that was a major achievement, and it brought public safety legislation into the 21st century where we are, and that was the first thing we did. The other thing, and the Premier touched on it, is how we are looking at combating violent and repeat offenders. And we made a tremendous announcement again about a year ago, but the money's flowing now. And that is to get these violent and repeat offenders off our streets that are wreaking havoc. And the Premier understated the fact that it was as a result of his efforts that he penned a letter signed by every Premier and territorial leader across Canada that called on the federal government to recognize that we have to take this matter very seriously, again, led by Premier Ford. We recognize that it was completely unacceptable that every few minutes, somewhere in Ontario, a car is being stolen, and sometimes violently. Sometimes people are confronted by having their front door kicked in at 5 in the morning, and people have been demanded to turn over their car keys, and it's completely unacceptable. And again, our government came forward with over $50 million investment to provide an auto theft grant, which meant that police services like YRP, led by Jim MacSween, has that extra money to have the personnel and the resources to combat auto theft. And Chief MacSween, you and the other chiefs who are here, together with the OPP, have made some tremendous announcements recently where you're finding cars. And you went to the Port of Montreal to find almost 600 cars recently. Almost 90% were stolen right here in Ontario. I want to tell you also that when Chief MacSween and I and the Deputy Solicitor General attended the Auto Theft Summit not that many months ago in Ottawa, Premier Ford said, Michael, there's two messages you have to convey. Message number one, there must be serious consequences for people that are stealing our cars. And message number two, and I've said this publicly many times, the federal government has to step up the inspections at the Port of Montreal, at the rail yards, and at the intermodals, and treat outbound sea containers and cargo the same as they're treating incoming cargo. If you can believe it, and I couldn't believe it until I learned about it, it's not treated the same. That's ridiculous, because we know where our cars are. And I've said to Dominic LeBlanc, why don't you just meet me and the Deputy Solicitor General at the Port of Montreal, and we'll open up some sea containers together, because we got cars there. So we've been fighting for that. And the other pillar that I am so pleased with and proud of, because it's helping YRP tonight, is we're putting more spaces available at the Ontario Police College, and we wiped out the fees. The Premier called one day and he said, Michael, what do you think about those $17,000 fees that a cadet has to pay when they want to become a police officer? And he said, it's ridiculous. I said, I agree with you. Let's get rid of them. He said, super. But I said, Premier, I want one more thing. I want to make sure we expand the class sizes so that we can graduate instead of 1,400 cadets a year to over 2,000. And that's helping YRP every day. And I want to congratulate the newest classes of cadets that are now being badged right here at YRP. Again, I want to give a shout out to the command leaders here who are training them and who will put them right on the ground. So you see, friends, as we look at our government's priorities on public safety, we are not just talking the talk, we're acting. It's something that we do absolutely every day, but we're also sensitive to the work that Victim Services does every day as well. To combat human trafficking, to combat a horror like that, we need people like we have here, Jillian and Jaspreet, who have the empathy and the commitment to go forward. And the funds that you're raising tonight are very, very important. I want to thank those who acknowledge it. So to sum up, for my colleagues, Minister Stephen Lecce and Laura Smith, and our other members from York Region, some of whom could not be here tonight, we say that our commitment to public safety is absolute and constant, and I'll tell you why, because it is. I want to give a special shout out to people that never really get recognized, but trust me, these are amazing people. You see, and I apologize, Chief, it'll be a little longer drive to get to headquarters tonight, but you know how often I'll pop in to the comm center. The people at the comm center, and especially Platoon C, who see me all the time, are people that answer the calls, the 911 call operators, when the phone rings. Those amazing 911 call operators, as I like to say, never get enough thanks. And yet every time I go by, whenever I'm in the area, they're always smiling, they're always passionate, they're always committed to answering that phone when it rings. So I want to give a shout out to them. But there's a second place that I go when I go to headquarters, and the chief has actually set up a little desk for me because I go quite often, and that's the information management. These are the people that transcribe the police reports as they come in. These are the people that have to make sure the notes that the police officers took are recorded to help keep Ontario safe. So to my friends in the Information Management Department at YRP, again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for everything that you're doing
to all the civilian and sworn of a service of York Regional Police that is nothing short of a flagship service of safety for Ontario, I want to say thank you. It's an honor to be here tonight, and I'll end by where I started. We will always have your backs. Thank you. Merci. Miigwech.